Welcome back, Seekers and Saints, to Fire in the Bones, and today we are referring back to the sermon of March 10th at Parma Heights Baptist Church. And this week we're doing something a little different. We are going to be referring to 2 points. I have 2 lessons based off of this sermon. So let's start with the first one, which I'm calling, I Love You, But. So Pastor Shane preached from Philippians 1:7 for this particular message I want to give. And in this passage, Paul was grateful for the Philippian church. He said he was appreciative and it was expressing his love for their support, for the fact that they stayed with him even when it got difficult. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about, so Paul was a Roman citizen, but he was also a Sanhedrin. He was a priest at the very least, a Pharisee. And he was talking to Greek Jews, who most likely were a little different from him, at least in some respects. But he was still showing his gratitude and love for them, for their support, for them sticking with him. And it reminded me of something I heard at a church in this area. I won't say which church. Could have been this one, could have been another one. And I won't say who. But I heard them talking to someone and make this point. I was talking to my nephew or some other relative who's Christian, and I said, I love you, but you're too liberal. Did you catch the problem? Did you catch it? No, not the too liberal part. The problem was, I love you, but. There was a condition. There was strings attached. The rot has begun to take root. And you may think, oh, but I'm loving them unconditionally despite that. Are you though? By attaching that but, you are essentially creating an anchor for you to stop loving them. It's a lot like creating a prenuptial agreement before a wedding or having separate bank accounts. You're almost setting yourself up for, well, if this doesn't work. And maybe for someone who's not Christian, that's all well and good and sensible. But for those of us who have decided, who have made a vow that marriage is for the rest of my life, this is giving an anchor, a string, a way out. And this I love you, but is the same exact thing. I will love you, but I won't respect you. I will love you, but I'm also going to hold this against you. When people see that or hear that, the backdoor Pastor Shane always preaches about looks pretty darn good. Sure, you love me, and maybe other people in the church love me, but they're always going to look at me different. And for all I know, one day, that exception is going to cause them to rethink their love for me. Trust me, and I won't say names or why or how, but I meet people within the church, not just Parma Heights Baptist, but anywhere, any church I've been to. I've worked in different ministries. I've power ministry, men's ministry on the Texas-Mexico border, which I fully endorse and love going to. Some of those guys, some of their ideologies I find repugnant. But I always say to myself first, the mission, but the Holy Spirit always reminds me of 2 things. 1, do you think you're always so great? Do you think your thinking isn't always wrong or repugnant to someone else? When did you become so perfect? And the other one is a verse from John 13, chapter 13, verses 34 to 35. A new commandment I give to you, love one another as I have loved you. By this all men will know you are my followers if you love one another. And that's Jesus saying it. Now, if Jesus could love and tolerate Judas of all people, the guy who he knew was going to betray him, without a but, what's our excuse? Because the more we attach buts and strings and exceptions, the more we give ourselves a latch for lessening that love later down the road when they annoy us too much and push them more towards that back door. Which really brings us to the conclusion of the matter. Love without strings, for those things lead to the back door of the church. That's all for this lesson. Stay tuned for the next one on Fire in the Bones.